So today we will be talking to you about an issue that surrounds the First Amendment, such as obscenity. Does anybody know what the First Amendment is?
No.
Okay, well, this topic becomes a major issue, reason being because most people don't know the protections of the First Amendment and what dangers accompanies it. So the question we will answer today is what the protection and limits of the First Amendment are and how it ties in with obscenity.
In commencement, the First Amendment is made of 5 basic freedoms: religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. Let's say, for example, your child thinks sharing indecent images of themselves is protected by the First Amendment.
Although that's not completely true. The amendment only serves for those who are 18 and older and are in agreement with the action. So raise your hands if you have kids. How many kids do you have? 2? Okay, so let's say all you parents out there, let's say you have a child and they begin to trust someone and they pass around an obscene image like a very inappropriate video or image, and they pass it around. And they think that's never going to go anywhere. But next thing you know, next week the whole school knows about it, law enforcement has to get involved, they have college scholarships and they're not there anymore because they got involved and they didn't, obviously they're not going to like that. So if your child is involved with obscenity, then the 3-pronged test isn't going to come into consideration, which is basically just a test that determines how obscene a case is. So if your teen or minor were to pass around explicit content to others, then they're going to receive consequences and they're not going to be protected by the First Amendment. Because the person who sends it and the person who passes it around, they will get in trouble because those shared images do count under child pornography.
Some restrictions are imposed to stop encouraging this type of behavior, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Like there are age restrictions on movies and websites, and there are also blocks on other sites. If an adult is caught with this type of indecent exposure, they will face the following: a Class 1 misdemeanor, jail time, fines, and a place on the sex offender registry.
So these kinds of things are taken very seriously because there are possible dangers that accompany it, such as unwanted exploitation and encouragement of predators. And I don't know about you guys, but I've seen the Netflix series about Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a very dangerous criminal who victimized many women by violating their rights, obviously. So it's pretty scary how nowadays it's so easy to get into contact with a criminal like that or a predator and by just the touch of a screen. It's pretty scary, isn't it, for a parent to realize that. So I think it's safe to say that all of you in here would want your child protected from these kinds of situations, right? So some cases that are an example of this are New York versus Ferber. In this case, there was a man who worked at a bookstore and he got caught selling explicit content of 2 children to undercover cops. He got in trouble because those 2 kids were minors, and it is a crime to even have a possession of it, and selling it and just the actual tape in general is a crime. So there was another case that is Roth versus the United States, and this man was just simply mailing the pornography to another article just to get published, but some people thought it was unconstitutional and he was charged with a misdemeanor. This case did establish the 3-pronged test that was mentioned earlier. So in essence, it is important for you as parents to raise awareness in your households about sending indecent pictures and videos to others. Because it is important to understand that if your child were to get involved with obscenity, their actions will not be protected by the First Amendment because they are minors and it's illegal. Especially in today's generation where it is very common to see all these kinds of things being passed around through text messages, social medias, like it's everywhere. And it can be passed down in seconds. So although there's another possible issue that does have to do with the First Amendment, and it is defamation. But what is it exactly?
Defamation. Defamation is when someone makes a false statement about another person to ruin that person's career or reputation. In our day and age, it is very common. You can see it in schools, social media, the news, etc. The reason this is a major consequence of obscenity is because of the intent. The intent is to obviously ruin that person's career and reputation. So it's very there are two different kinds of it: libel and slander. Libel is when someone it has the known source, and you can mainly just see this in news, in the newspapers and all that. Though slander is very hard to distinguish. Let's first say, for example, your child. They've gotten many opportunities to go to like highly prestigious schools. They're being offered future jobs and all that. But then they get like into an argument with like their girlfriend or something. Their girlfriend now said something very untrue about your child. And now it spreads like wildfire. Now your child is being defamed for something they didn't even do. Now colleges have seen this, and your child's future has been wiped out completely. We have seen such examples of this as the Michael Jackson versus People case in 2004 and the recent allegation against Brett Kavanaugh. Michael Jackson was accused of sexually abusing a 13-year-old child in his home. When police searched his home, they found nothing incriminating, so they relied on witness testimonies. Though Jackson later said in a statement that the witnesses were unreliable and had been previously accused of perjury and fraud. Due to the lack of evidence, Jackson was later proven innocent, though he can never go back to his home because of the police damage that had been done. So he moved to Sweden, where we all know that he unfortunately died to a drug overdose because of the stress. Another case is when Brett Kavanaugh was accused by 3 women of sexual abuse, assault. The allegations, though, did not match up of what Kavanaugh did on those days, nor did it match up with the events. Again, he was proven innocent, but later had to be removed due to the controversy. These are the dangers of defamation, and even though it is protected by our First Amendment, people do not have the right to go and defame each other. And even though we cannot stop defamation fully, there are ways we can prevent it by making stricter laws on how we present people in media and looking at evidence more carefully so we can protect the ones who have been wrongfully accused.
So parents, open your eyes. No one in here would want to deal with this like ever, right? You would never want to see your child go through any of this kind of damage. So that's why we're here to talk about it. It's important that you guys bring awareness because this could be your kid and their future being affected. Thank you.